John Sheehan, Lord Mayor of Cork. Good evening and welcome to this special online event that is celebrating the contribution that the voluntary and community sector make to the life of the people of Cork. Ordinarily, about now, I would expect to be standing on the stage of the concert hall in City Hall, flanked by my fellow councillors, our Chief Executive Anne Doherty, and our media sponsors in front of an audience of hundreds of people. We will be welcoming groups who have joined our expanded city, groups from Ballincollig, Glanmire, Douglas, Frankfield, Grange, Tower, Blarney and White's Cross. After the formalities, we will proceed to the Millennium Hall to toast the winners and those shortlisted. But these are anything but ordinary times. We live in an extraordinary time under a global pandemic, the like of which we have not seen for the past 100 years. Using a vocabulary that even now, months into the event, does not sit comfortably with many of us. Words such as pandemic, social distancing, cocooning still have an unfamiliar and uncomfortable sound. That was for which we are famous, the generosity of our welcomes and the warmth of our embrace has been put on hold until we find a way to live with COVID-19. I am conscious many of ye will have lost people dear to you and not have been able to grieve, mourn and celebrate their lives in the way you would have wished. On my own behalf and on behalf of those who have not been able to shoulder that grief with you in the traditional way, I extend my heartfelt sympathies. One thing has not changed, however, and that is the generosity of spirit of the Cork's community and voluntary organisations. We are nothing if not resilient, and tonight we celebrate, in the virtual fashion that is increasingly our new normal, the individuals and organisations that epitomise our ability to watch out for our neighbours and to rise to a challenge when we find one before us. There is an Irish anokul that states, Scóra céile a Warmead, translating as, we live in each other's shadows. In general terms, this is taken to mean we are each other's protective shade. Never has this been more true or more necessary. Let us continue to provide that shelter and support throughout these troubled times. I hope you will stay with us and join in the recognition of the contributions and achievements of those we thank tonight. But now, over tonight's media sponsors, the Evening Echo's editor, Maurice Gubbins, before City Council's Chief Executive, Anne Doherty, will join us.
Hello everyone. In the 17 years in which the Lord Mayor of Cork's Community and Voluntary Awards have been held, 250 organisations have won awards or been shortlisted. In other words, 250 organisations have been honoured. As Cork's community newspaper, the Echo is so proud to have been a sponsor and to have supported the awards and the winners over each of those 17 years. We always say there isn't a street or a neighbourhood in Cork that doesn't feature regularly in the pages of our print newspaper or on our wonderful news site echolive.ie. All of the individuals and organisations mentioned at the Lord Mayor's Awards are in our pages or on echolive.ie this week and most weeks. You make news because you support our people, young and old, and our community. We are so proud of what you do. The Echo is with you. The awards have been, traditionally, they've been across the following categories: social services, charities and environment, social inclusion, advocacy guidance, health and well-being, community development and continuing education, arts, culture, recreation and sport. If we were to show you a clip of only 10 seconds of the work of each of these organisations that we have honoured over the years, this segment alone would last for 45 minutes. Don't worry, we're not going to do that. What you will see instead is a 5-minute glimpse into the incredible work undertaken by the diversity of cultural, sporting, education, charity and advocacy groups across this wonderful city. If your organisation couldn't be included in this montage, it is by no means a reflection of the esteem in which you are held by your city. You are our community. You are our community champions. We salute you.
On Monday, March 30th, 3 days following a request from the Minister for Housing, Planning and Local Government, Owen Murphy, Cork City Council established a Community Response Forum led by Cork City Council. A dedicated community support helpline was set up running from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week to help ensure that vulnerable members of the community or those living alone could access deliveries of groceries, medicine and fuels and avail of social care supports if needed. It was the support infrastructure set up to support this service that has set Cork apart from other local authorities. The newly expanded city was divided into 16 distinct areas, each with a local authority staff member as lead organiser, with the HSE and An Garda Síochána forming the key trio of response agencies. Supporting each of these areas are a small and dedicated group of volunteer and community organisations, our community leads. These are typically people on the ground, familiar with the people in their area, their needs, and where appropriate, their vulnerabilities. These are true COVID heroes, people without whom the area teams could not hope to reach those most at risk. People whose local knowledge is invaluable and in some cases actually life-saving. We will now hear from a number of people who have been working closely on the ground with our community response team.
Community groups were formed to help individuals, to help the areas around Cork City, and really that call has been answered incredibly.
We came together during the COVID crisis to meet the needs of our people really by offering Meals on Wheels, grocery drop-offs, medication drop-offs, or even just having a chat with someone on the phone who was cocooning, isolating or the most vulnerable within our community.
And we're very lucky that there are people to answer those calls.
The impact that this has had on our community is that more people are now involved in our community.
Well, lots of the people around have been supportive of others, and they're getting help.
But this isn't just about the elderly. Youth are vulnerable as well. And you know what? Zoom has zoomed into our lives. We have Zoom cookery classes, Zoom music classes, and Zoom really has linked people in these challenging times.
To see the community being involved in their community has lifted the spirit of the community and has made them aware of the work that needs to be done in the community.
So when you're trying to deliver services, for example, very basic services like food, a place for somewhere to sleep, support for people around mental health issues, addiction issues, access to healthcare, access to housing supports, everything had to change. So we had to learn to adapt very quickly and do things very differently. And I have to say that the response, the staff and the volunteers across the city, not just in Cork Simon but across the city, was tremendous, and they delivered for us in spades.
The centre runs a Meals on Wheels service 4 days a week, but since the coronavirus they've extended the service to 7 days with the support of the HSE. They also got 20 new volunteers from the volunteer centre to help with the deliveries.
I'm involved in the Singing for the Brain. Now, we used to meet once a week up in the community hall, but because of the pandemic we can't meet. But we now have a great thing, it's called a Zoom. Meet for about an hour and a half, we sing, we do exercise, and we have a great crack. You know that was the last thing on my mind. Thank you very much.
Another service in the centre here is book swaps. So between 11 and 1 p.m. every day, people from the community can come up and just give a book, take a book, We do a delivery service as well that's available, so it's very good for people to stay involved and keep the brain going.
And the key thing that stands out for me in all of this, in terms of keeping people safe, was the ability of supports and services in the city, of the HSE social inclusion team, the City Council, and all the services in terms of voluntary and community services in the city to go out there and provide alternative accommodation for people. That actually saved lives, and that's something we need to continue right into the future until we find a home for everybody in the city.
Hi, my name is Nora. I'm working for the Cork City Community Outreach Team. It's 6:30 on a Wednesday morning and we're heading out to see some of the rough sleepers.
We belong to a knitting group. We are still doing the knitting group through all this, and we are relied on people donating wool to us to be able to carry on what we are doing.
Meals on Wheels have always, they've been there for a long, long time, and I think probably have gone under the radar a little bit because it's only now when people can't get out, and they extended their services to those whom were cocooning as well as those who were normally receiving.
But the voluntary people that do visit people is amazing. The work they do is fantastic, and also if we didn't have them, I would hate to think where we would be.
And I think people need to remember that, you know, when we were back in the good times and we're all out and about and that again, is that our volunteers do get kind of pushed aside a little and forgotten about because we do what we do for the love of it, you know, and obviously get personal satisfaction out of what we do, apart from seeing that we live in a better place.
But we also are able to deliver wool around to people, elderly people who love to knit, they really do. And their smile on their face when they see us coming in the car and dropping off their wool or buttons or any bits that they like, that's what we do.
So if we're going forward, the one thing I will say is that it has proven the value of the community and voluntary sector when addressing complex issues in Cork. And we need to strengthen the community and voluntary sector going forward if we're to ensure that we have an inclusive city that delivers for all the people, and particularly those who are in the vulnerable categories in the city, such as homelessness and so forth.
The volunteers provide a huge service to people who needed to stay home, the people who are over 70, the people who are cocooned, the people who were vulnerable, and allowed them to stay home. That was the objective of setting up the group in the first place.
I think it's really nice to see a lot of the younger girls in the club and all this, and we're all helping out the older community in Mayfield, which otherwise we wouldn't have really come into contact with, and it's just nice to do something nice for the community, and it's definitely brought us all closer together.
I just wanted to mark the confirmation out since there wasn't going to be any, and since we're so close to Toker School, we just wanted to mark the day by handing out Kit Kats and notes. So at 2 o'clock then everybody was going to have a Kit Kat and a cup of tea. And for phase 1 I'm going to mark it with timeouts and notes.
They come 4 times a week. They come Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. So they're the four days that Meals on Wheels comes to me. And I have very good neighbours who make dinners for me on the other 3 days. So I've no danger of starving.
I tried to play a bit of golf at one stage, but that's out the window. As long as you don't act the idiot and go out in the street and meeting up with people and talking to them, you're okay. Everybody would be okay if they did that. If they just stayed at 2 or 3 meters away from each other when they're talking.
There are a number of lessons that come out of this as well. And first and foremost is the whole idea that when people are working in partnership, in an inclusive way, where you have leadership, you have local knowledge, you have a purpose and a will to deliver, a singular purpose and a will to deliver, then anything is possible. The city can deliver anything, it can take on any challenge. And from that perspective, Cork City, its response to the COVID-19, particularly in terms of keeping vulnerable people safe, was excellent. So all credit due to everybody involved, Community and Voluntary sector, and particularly the Cork City Council and the social inclusion team with HSE. It was a real combined collective effort that delivered for Cork.
These are true COVID heroes, without whom and their local knowledge, our area teams could not have helped those who are most vulnerable.
And so we come to the end of this year's celebration of the Lord Mayor's Community Recognition event. I will conclude with another proverb. Ní náart go céir le chéile, there is strength only in unity. As we have seen tonight, the strong voluntary and community sector and the contribution that so many different groups and people have made to the lifeblood of Cork is celebrated in so many ways. Especially over the past 3 months, we have seen their vital contribution, and that contribution continues and will continue into the future.